Okay. Hello, everyone. It's your man Adam here with Worldwide Stereo, and we are sitting at what is now our Wi-Fi happy hour. Normally at this time, we're doing our hi-fi happy hour, but given our live event that we did yesterday, the broadcast that we did, it was really geared towards Wi-Fi and networking and all that. So we're going to have a little fun, a little play on words and make it our Wi-Fi happy hour today. So I brought some guests back with me that I had yesterday. Got some new guests here that I want to introduce to you. Then we're going to kind of go over, a lot of what we talked about yesterday, because there were a ton of questions, and thank you all for that. That was awesome. It was a great engagement. So we had a lot of people and we had a lot of questions. So I'm going to need some help, and we're going to go through them and also maybe dive a little bit deeper into this whole Wi-Fi thing that we call here. So I'm going to bring some of my friends in here. Give me 1 second. And there we are. How's everybody doing?
Doing well.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. There's Ben. Well, okay. So we got to explain. First, down here, I love doing this down here. We have Brian, who was with us yesterday. That's you. That's right. Okay. And yeah, everything's backwards. So then now we have two Bens. All right. So to my left, we have Ben Juro from Access Networks. How you doing, Ben?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. And below me, we have Ben Morrow from Worldwide Stereo. So it couldn't have gotten any closer in names. So for the foreseeable future for this, I'm going to call Access Ben, Worldwide Stereo Ben.
Okay? Worldwide Ben it is.
That way we don't get anybody confused. So thank you guys for coming and spending a little time with us tonight, and our online viewers and my friends here, because we really want to understand and get a better grasp of this whole Wi-Fi thing. I mean, it seems so simple enough. You get a router, you got some Wi-Fi devices, and things should just work and connect. But all of us have experienced it, and specifically now, as right now, we're all working from home. We're in my home. Ben, you're in your home. Brian and the other Ben, we're all in our own homes right now using our own networks for this exact stream. So we're not in like this professional studio environment here. So, and everybody's been on these live calls and Zoom with work. And I'm sure you've gotten the guy who's been talking and all of a sudden he just freezes out of nowhere, or you're watching Netflix and either the quality goes down or you get that spinning wheel of death. And again, things seem simple enough. So we want to really talk about that. So at the end of this, guys, my friends out there, we can all understand what's going on and how we can help you improve that. So this is our Wi-Fi, hi-fi happy hour. It is a happy hour. So I want to first say cheers to everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's have a good time tonight.
Cheers.
Cheers. So Brian, you told us a little bit about yourself yesterday. Why don't you sum that up a little bit quicker and just give a brief recap of your background and experience and what you bring to the table here for me.
So my background is I've been with Worldwide Stereo since 2005. I knew nothing about the industry before I started, and basically I've learned everything here. I worked as store support, moved into project management, moved into a field technician focusing on control systems and networking, and now I'm the technical field supervisor, so I'm charged with leading the installation department. So excellent. I'm Ben's boss. Oh, this Ben's boss.
Worldwide Ben. Worldwide Ben.
Not that guy.
You call that guy. So to my left here, Ben Juro from Access Networks. Again, thank you for joining us. What is your position there with Access, and what do you bring?
So I'm the director of sales for North America. So sales, if you want to buy stuff, I can help. And my background is in control systems as well. So, I was a programmer with an integrator, and I worked for a control manufacturer as well. So I come from the control system side, not from the hi-fi side. So that's
okay. And Access Networks is what that company. Who are they? What do they do?
So what we do is we work with folks like Worldwide. What we do is we take enterprise level networking technology that's meant to go into some of the most challenging environments, like train stations and football stadiums and airports and things like that. And what we do is we take that experience and we tailor that for primarily high-end residential deployments.
Did you say for like football stadiums and like on that kind of like large scale? Like how about cities? Have you tackled a city yet?
So the technology we use, Tokyo, Los Angeles, Tokyo train stations use the same access point technology than we do. So it's really serious stuff.
Yeah, I would say so. I'd say if you could figure out how to get that right, you should be doing pretty well inside of a house. My goodness.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm sure you're going to have a lot of great things to help us out with to understand what's going on as you tackle a city. I'm sure you can tackle a house. My God. Below me, we have Worldwide Ben. How you doing, Ben? Afternoon, evening, happy hour. So wherever. We're in the middle there. So how long have you been with Worldwide? What's your background?
I started with Worldwide about 6 years ago this summer. So I'm really just a big geek that found his calling in audiovisual equipment. I've had a bunch of techie jobs leading up to this, fixing computers at Staples, selling cell phones at Verizon, and doing tech support at Lutron Electronics. And that was kind of what was my foot in the door into the control system and automation business, was learning residential lighting control systems. And I heard about Worldwide Stereo and all the cool things that they could do, and integrating lighting control systems, and the rest is history. I learned all that I could really about the business in the past 6 years that I've worked here, and learned a lot from Brian. He was one of the first people that ever trained me in the audiovisual business, and I absolutely love it. I always love to get my hands dirty and put really awesome systems together. It's my passion.
Yeah. And we've learned a lot from each other too.
It's true.
Oh, there you go. Okay. I would say ditto to that as well, as I've been on many job sites with both of you, and it's always a learning experience no matter when I go. So I want to remind everybody that we have, we're again working remotely for you, so we're here for you. So if I can show you something on our website here, I want to take show it to you. Give me a second. I'll pull it up on the screen right here. There we go. So this is our website right here, and this is a really key section that we're going to be focusing on tonight. So when you go to our website and you go to the Our Services tab, you come down here to Home Networks, you are going to land on this page where we talk about what we can do for you. Oh, look, a little pop-up for our happy hour. Come join us right now. We're doing it now. So, and you can schedule a free consultation today. Okay, reach out to us right here. That's our phone number. We do in-house networking surveys, which we'll talk about a little bit deeper in a few minutes. But we supply you with enterprise-grade networks to make sure that all your stuff is working. And when it works, that's certainly us making it happen for you. And we have the back-end support. All right, so we can work remotely, we can service you remotely, and we have a lot of the stuff on this website is also all free shipping, and we can get it to you in a hurry. So, great place to go for a lot of resources. Let's get started and talk about Wi-Fi. All right, so again, it seems simple enough. You have a router that you get from your internet service provider. You have a family, a couple people. You got some smart TVs. You got some game systems. You got some iPhones and pads and tablets or whatever, smartphones. And yet people struggle to communicate or get connectivity, I should say. We know that everybody likes to talk about the spinning wheel of death. So let's remind ourselves a little bit of how Wi-Fi really works and why is that a challenge. I'm going to start with Access Ben here and just kind of explain what the challenge is with that, why it should just work, but what's really happening and why is it an issue?
Yeah, so sometimes it does, and usually when we do our job, right, it does. The way I always like to look at Wi-Fi is how you should look at your plumbing, right? You should never have to think about your plumbing; it should just exist. And if you're thinking about it, you probably need a better plumber, right?
Right.
So, a lot about what Wi-Fi is built for is it's designed to go into the average home, right? So figure 1,500, 2,000 square feet home, standard stick and drywall construction. Not a whole lot of gear going on there. The actual spec of Wi-Fi basically says if you're connected, it's working, not if you're getting good speeds or anything like that.
Wow,
so,
okay.
A lot of the environments that we find ourselves in, the homes are larger, they're more challenging construction materials. You have radiant heat and hurricane glass and metal studs and things like that. And then we're throwing integration to make the homeowners' lives more fun and easier with all of those devices.
Yep.
So, making sure that we can handle those devices and handle those construction materials, that's where we come in and we smooth out those rough edges.
Right, because I think we were talking yesterday, and Brian, we mentioned that, everybody assumes that everything's just talking to each other all at the same time. And really with most networks, it's, well, I got to talk to you, and then I'm going to talk to you, and then I'm going to talk to you, and then I'm going to talk to you. And understanding that that's the big difference between, a wired network, is that all of your stuff that's connected over that wired network can communicate all at the same time, rather than one to one to one to one to one, and that. So that's certainly a big thing. So that was a question we got a lot of yesterday. And here's one right off the bat that's already coming in. Do we need enterprise service in a house? So Ben, we use that term a lot. Worldwide Ben. We use that term a lot. We talk about enterprise grade. What does that mean? What does enterprise mean? And do you think we need it in a home?
Well, first of all, if it's any indication of what I've got behind me in my own home, yes, I do believe enterprise grade is the superior solution for any home networking.
Okay.
Yes.
So start with that. What is all behind you? I mean, I got some nice speakers, and that's my kind of thing, but it looks like this is your thing. What's back there?
So what I've got back here are a Fortinet wired network router and firewall, in addition to a couple of Fortinet managed switches. And that's the particular brand of wired network equipment that I chose for my house. There's a variety of ones out there, but specifically speaking, Wi-Fi, my choice in my home is the Ruckus access points. This is one of the ceiling mounted.
You got to rock on from Access Ben on that one.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi extenders that I have. I live in a moderately sized townhome, and 2 access points more than comfortably blankets the whole house with Wi-Fi and hardwired uplink for both of those back to the primary switches here. So hardwired solutions wherever you're going to be deploying your Wi-Fi. I fully endorse hardwired connections, and a rock solid backbone is going to make all streaming experiences just flawless.
I'm guessing you can send out launch codes or something like that, right? That's what you can do from that thing. Anyway, so what is enterprise grade when I say that? What does that mean?
Brian, do you want to take this one?
Go for it, Brian.
Enterprise grade means that it works in an enterprise environment. So it's working with a certain set of security, reliability, integration, and I always forget that last one. Ben, you want to help me out with that one? No, this Ben.
Yeah, so there's a few things that are involved in that, and sometimes it's used as a marketing term, but I think you hit the nail on the head. Is I always ask, well, what enterprises use this device, right? But one of the big ones is things like mean time between failure, which is basically how long this box is going to last. So a consumer, a regular consumer grade versus an enterprise grade. An enterprise grade is probably going to last you about 10 times as long before you should expect to have any failures. But it's not just the hardware, right? So yes, it's going to be built better and out of better materials and under better quality control and everything. But it's also you need enterprise grade engineering and programming, right? You need an enterprise grade level of support on the back end. So there's a little bit more to it than just what the box does.
Got it. So yeah, as again, we're all working from home, and kids are home doing homework and playing their games, and we're streaming everything these days on our smart TVs. We are experiencing a little bit of a stress test for all of this equipment. So enterprise grade could certainly prolong what we already have here. I mean, these are basically systems that enterprise grade systems that were built for Fortune 500 companies, and customizing them for your home. I mean, we're not trying to light up a train station or a city, but we can take what you guys have learned from that and make it more reliable for inside your home.
And
it's actually harder. So it's harder to do residential than it is to do commercial and enterprise stuff. Because even if you're doing a gigantic campus, right, or multiple campuses, really all you're doing is trying to do something that's really big. You're doing one thing and you're replicating it, but the load on the network is pretty standard. It's pretty reliable. You're doing Slack. I mean, worst case is you're doing Zoom, that sort of thing. But when you're doing somebody's home, there's multiple people in the home typically, and they're all doing video games and 4K streaming and all of that. It's actually harder to do residential than it is to do commercial and enterprise deployments.
That's interesting. I never thought of it that way. So what do you think specifically that you have to change or alter from a commercial versus a residential setup? What's the big difference?
Well, there's a lot more nuance to it. The other part is just the end users and their expectation level, right? So,
Okay.
if you have a hotel or if you have an office building and, you get a dead zone or something like that happens, is the big deal? Yeah, it's not great. But if it's somebody's home, that's a really big deal. And they spent good money and they want a level of performance. So you need to be able to support that reliably. But also just on the configuration side, there's just different nuance to the type of gear that goes into a home. It could be anything from, cheap consumer grade IoT stuff all the way up to, really top tier control systems and things like that. They all have different characteristics and they behave different ways. And we need to make all of that work seamlessly.
Cool. Well, I never thought of it like that. That's interesting. I'm definitely going to take that nugget and use that later. Thank you. I like that. So, these things work. Obviously, you need an internet service provider, and their devices are not enterprise grade as much, I guess, as we would like them to be. We spoke about something yesterday, and I think this really, I want to say it again because it really, I think, helps people understand what we're talking about. And that's when you have, so we talked about our store. We gave our store an example, and we put a network in there, and things seemed to be fine. And then all of a sudden, everything was slowing down. And we learned that, if you're just driving by my showroom and you have your cell phone in the car and your phone can see our network, okay? You didn't log in, you didn't get the password and jump onto my network. All you did was your phone just saw my network as it was driving by. Well, that puts a tax on our network. So when you think about, your personal space, you got Ben, you're in a townhome there, so you have, neighbors in close proximity, single family homes or down the city, your environment, how densely populated that is, all of those people can see your network. So I would say, so Brian, how does that slow things down in terms of usage, and what's the difference between some of the enterprise grade stuff versus maybe just something from an internet service provider?
It really comes down to capacity. The pieces that Access Network has kind of helped us out with gives us more what they call users available. And it's concurrent users, the ones available to see and not bog down the access points. The hard part is like, as much as I've searched the internet, I try to find out what ISP's user limits are, or if they even publish them. Ben, have you ever seen any real numbers for that?
No, but generally, even consumer to small, medium business grade gear, it usually maxes out around 30.
30? Wow.
Yeah, where we're in the hundreds.
Yeah.
The thing to keep in mind on that too is that, which I think what Adam was driving at, which is that I don't have to get on your network to count towards that number. I just have to be near enough to that access point for my phone to see it. Yeah. And my phone's going to say, "Hey, access point, can I connect to you?" And the access point says no. And then my phone says, "Hey, can I connect to you?" And the access point says no. So while that's happening, that means me as the homeowner, I can't connect to that access point because my access point's too busy talking to all the other folks running around.
Yeah, the average Joe on the street there. So, wow.
So, question about that access, Ben, is that a limitation in the antenna radios built into lower quality equipment, or is that a limitation of the software side of things? Because a typical network, would have over 200 IP addresses to hand out, but you're saying that only 30 wireless users could potentially connect with reasonable reliability on some of this lower tier equipment. Why is that?
Yeah, so without getting too deep, Wi-Fi generally talks to one device at a time. There's some newer technologies and some other things, but by and large, Wi-Fi talks to one device at a time. So if you have a lot of devices in the space, that means that I have to wait longer for it to be my turn to talk. Now, an end user might think that, they got two of their kids, they're both streaming YouTube or whatever, they're both talking at the same time. But what's really happening is that packet of information's here, a packet of information's going there, a packet of information's here, a packet of information's going there. It just seems like it's happening in real time. So that's why, if you're in an environment where you're in a multi-dwelling unit or you're next to a park or, you decide to throw your kid's wedding in the backyard, and now you got 1,000 people back there. You can have a functioning system that works great, that you love. But once all these people are there with phones in their pocket, the entire system can crash. So that's why having that additional elbow room, you may or may not need it, but having it is very useful.
That's one thing I'm really lucky with. I live in a apartment complex. There are a lot of different people around me. You know, I have two to the left, two to the right, two below me, and everything else in between. I have a Ruckus R700, which can handle more than my neighborhood can even offer up. So I tend to not have problems with Wi-Fi in a 2-bedroom apartment.
Wow.
I might have gone a little overboard.
Oh, well, yeah, that's fine. I get yelled at for doing that multiple times. So is that so we talk about like the 30 number and the 100 and the amount of, users that you can see. Is that something that anybody's software could potentially block, or is that just always a thing that you have to consider and make sure that your equipment can handle it?
That's just part of how Wi-Fi works.
It's just how it is. Okay, I'm just asking.
It doesn't matter if you're not broadcasting your SSID, if you're hiding it, none of that matters. It doesn't matter if I, as the user, even wants to connect to your network. If I have a phone in my pocket and Wi-Fi is turned on my phone, it's going to try to connect to your access.
It's going to try. Yeah. Yep. So you want to think about that, folks. You heard it first. If you want to have a big party, you need our stuff. So just saying.
Not just for music.
Yeah, right. Parties, those were fun.
So let's see here. Let's look here. I got a nice question coming in from Sam here.
What's Sam have to say?
I need some help finding a way to get around my internet service provider AT&T required gateway for which they charge a monthly fee. Thanks. All right, Ben, you're shaking your head down there. Yeah. What do you got?
So us here in Philadelphia, we're around the Philadelphia area. We're more accustomed to Comcast and Verizon Fios, and those are the two primary internet service providers in our area. Comcast, I know that you can use a third-party modem for their internet connection, and you can buy one off the shelf at most electronic resellers. Verizon, on the other hand, they put out a specific technology called Mocha through their router that is needed for their cable boxes to work, and you can't get around using a Verizon router in your system if you're going to also have their cable boxes. I'm not as familiar with AT&T and their Uverse network, but if there is a limitation on functionality for subsidiary systems to the internet like cable television that require use of one of their routers, you might be able to buy out one of their branded routers and own it rather than renting it from them. I know that's an option with Verizon, and it could be an option with AT&T. I'm not 100% sure on that.
You guys, any info on that that you know of with AT&T? Anything specific like that?
It's very similar to Fios and how it works. Yeah, so I forget which one it is, but either you're putting it in bridge mode or a DMZ mode, but it does have to live on the network if you have their TV service as well. That's my understanding.
But it sounds like you can get around it some way in terms of better performance, but you can't get around from a monthly fee standpoint.
Well, typically, for at least for Verizon, I know that you can buy one of their proprietary routers and own it, so you don't incur a monthly rental fee. Okay. But it's required for other systems to work. You can't just go buy one off the shelf at a retailer. Most of the ISPs are typically offering an option to buy and own your router. The only, I guess, trade-off with that would be is if you own your own router and you're not renting it for them, if there's a problem with the one you own, it's up to you to replace it yourself versus renting it from the internet service provider. If there's a problem with it, they're on the hook for replacing it on their dime.
Right. Which I tend to lean towards that. That always makes me feel better. Look, I'm renting it. There's a problem. Swap it out.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of thing. So it's kind of a nice recourse.
Now, one thing I'll add for Ben there is if you are putting in a third-party system and trying to bypass the ISP that they require one, you can often find some of their older units on sale for a lower price if you only need to utilize it for the cable boxes. You directly connect the network in, bypass their their gateway only to use it for their cable boxes, and then utilize either the ONT directly. So I'm going to use letters. Sorry. To get the feed directly from Verizon into the third party pieces,
Mm-hmm.
and then from the third party feed into the Verizon FiOS gateway to then feed the cable boxes.
Right.
There are limitations on service and products that are available, but it's that weird balance of, okay, I can get the fastest, or I can get something that I know someone can 100% help me with. So it really depends how deep you want to get into it.
Right. Okay, so this is a happy hour. I forgot to announce what we're drinking here tonight. So this is something wonderful from a local brewery down the street from me, from Free Will. It's called Cloudy with a Chance of Charcuterie, one of my favorites. Ben, I noticed, what do you got drinking down there? What do you got?
A little bit of Duclaw. They're out of
Sweet Baby Jesus.
Some Sweet Baby Jesus. I've been some thicker, darker beer, so I like my porters and stouts. This particular one is a chocolate peanut butter porter. It's like drinking a candy bar.
Yeah, I've had one of those before.
I'm trying to stay off the quarantine weight. I have a Coke Zero.
Oh, okay. Very nice. Very nice.
I'm with Brian. I'm just having tea.
Just tea. Okay. Okay.
How about you guys out in internet land? What are you guys drinking?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. I want to know that. Okay, so I'm gonna hit it right here because it came up and I was about to get it to it too.
Good question.
It was a good question coming from last night, and we're going to move it into tonight. Do you think devices will ever start using 5G cell tower service versus Wi-Fi? First and foremost, folks, that's everybody gets that kind of confused. There are 5 gigahertz networks, and this is what's coming around the corner is called a 5G cell tower service. So I'd love to get the Access Network's opinion on this one. What do you think there, Ben?
Not really. So the thing with 5G is I look at it more as a delivery method to the home. So just like you could have Comcast or whatever it is, bring the pipe to your house.
Yeah.
You could conceivably do something similar with 5G. Have that received, but then translate that over to your local network. The challenge with having all your devices directly connect to the network was, first of all, the way 5G works, the signal, it's hard to get it through walls. So if you have walls in your home, it's going to be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I have a couple of those.
Yeah, at least 4 typically.
Yeah.
And then the other part is, particularly with an integrated home, which is like most of your end users, is, well, then how are those devices all going to talk to each other if they're all directly talking to the internet? You have to put a SIM card in each one of those devices. It's a really cool technology. For me, I don't see 5G as being as important as some of these new, satellite constellation internet providers are, which, you'll be able to receive anywhere in the world. You won't have to be within 50 feet of the nearest cell tower, because the 5G signal has to be really close. You need a lot of little micro cell towers everywhere.
Wow. Satellite constellation. So Little Dippers and Orion and all those, right?
Yeah, that's Elon Musk. He's putting up hundreds of thousands of them. You can see him at night.
That's amazing.
An interesting aside to that is Ben has been working with me in looking into utilizing cellular Wi-Fi as a secondary source for internet into the home in case an ISP fails, as a failover point as opposed to being a primary. So if 5G starts to be a real thing, and it can act as a good secondary spot if your ISP goes down, it could be a good reality. The only big difference is when we started looking into the pricing for it. If you start looking at how much a cell phone company wants to charge you for a gig of data, you'll see your bill go up real quick, as opposed to using the unlimited bandwidth that ISP providers give you.
Yeah. And that, I think, is the main difference is, data caps and charges per gigabyte of data are going to be the real limitation to using cellular technology coming from the cell phone companies, Verizon Wireless, AT&T Wireless, Sprint, T-Mobile. If they're broadcasting a cell phone signal, picking it up and using that as your primary internet connection at home, you're limited by data caps or, like Brian said, charges per gigabyte of use from the cell phone companies. Whereas, from a landline company like Verizon FiOS, AT&T UVerse, Comcast, you have an unlimited data cap typically with most home broadband plans, and you're not going to get overage charges for overusing that cell phone antenna that you're feeding your home internet connection with. It might be, like Brian said, a worthy redundant backup, a backup solution in case, my Comcast network, goes out, my neighbor, cut his, the coax feed for the block, and now everybody's out of internet. I still have a cell phone backup as a, as an internet connection, but never a primary one. I don't think that's worthy of a solution in the home.
We had to cancel a training with one of our manufacturers because that happened.
Yep.
Someone cut the line to their neighborhood and they couldn't do a training.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So with
simple as that, doing some landscaping can take down the internet.
Weirder things have happened.
Yeah.
So a couple of the things that are out there, though, again, talking about just on a basic level of what people expect out of Wi-Fi, not being the average consumer kind of guy and getting out there and saying, I need to get, I need to get better Wi-Fi for my home. There's all of these, you Google it or whatever, you look it up and you'll find reviews and pitches for, mesh networks. Okay. So I want to get some real explanation here from Access Ben here on explaining consumer level mesh networks and what the real difference between them and a enterprise grade, like we're talking about, system really can do.
Yeah, and I think we should just clarify what that means, because I've seen it mean two different things.
Yeah.
So some people mean a mesh network where it just means that I have multiple access points in my home and they're all sort of working in concert. That's a good thing, and that's not what mesh is. Mesh typically means I can't pull a wire to every one of my access points, so their access points are going to talk to each other wirelessly between them. The idea is you're going to get more coverage over a larger area, but you're not going to get the best possible performance, because even though I'm in the business of wireless, a wire is always better than wireless. So it's a really cool solution. It's not a performance-based solution, but it is a great convenient solution. There's consumer-grade options that are out there from a couple different manufacturers, but even the high-end stuff like that we're involved in, most of those models can do mesh capability as well. So if you have that one area where you forgot to pull a wire to, you can still get coverage there. You'll get decent rates, but it's not going to be as fast as it's going to be in the rest of the home.
And that's helped us out a lot in some of our own installations where we're doing something that someone's converted a space above a garage, and there's just no way to get a wire out there. Because it's concrete slab below, and it was meant to be an external space, and there's just no way to get a network line there. Mesh has been a great solution for us. We've actually had a pretty good performance actually from one where it was actually a detached garage with a home above it. They added an apartment but above a detached garage, and we could only mesh through to it because of the distance to it. And it's enough for the guests that are living there, but if you're the main homeowner, it might not be enough for you.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say that's the use case I have. I have the exact same thing for my garage as well.
Yeah.
Personally, perfect. Also, I think the other word that gets thrown around a lot, and I'll go to Worldwide Ben on this one, is the repeater. Just get a repeater. Or a Wi-Fi extender.
Right.
That's the other term that gets thrown around a lot. Is that the same as a mesh network?
Negative. So an extender is a technology that I'm not a particular fan of. Those are typically, the consumer grade extenders. You just plug into an outlet. It's got one antenna that picks up your router broadcasting Wi-Fi and another antenna that rebroadcasts it to another part of the house.
Okay.
And typically, they're not working in tandem. There's no, two-way feedback between your extender and your main router. It's just doing that. It's trying to rebroadcast a signal that probably wasn't great in the first place because you needed an extender. So what makes the mesh network superior, in particular the higher end models and the prosumer or even enterprise grade models, is the 5 gigahertz back channel. And that's a very technical term for saying that there is intercommunication going between all of your mesh access points, all the nodes, they have the ability to, talk to each other and uplink to your main router and get out to the internet through that back channel, and that they're broadcasting between each other on, rather than just picking up Wi-Fi and rebroadcasting it.
Got it. So there was a follow-up question to that when we talked about the mesh network stuff. He's like, can I just get 2 routers?
If you want it to be confusing, yes.
Yes. Why is that, Brian? Why does it end up being confusing?
Oftentimes when I see two routers set up in a residential home, they're never set up properly. In a sense of if it could be set up properly, but you're just kind of utilizing something that shouldn't be where it is, versus utilizing the proper instrument, utilizing the proper device to allow your wireless network to extend itself into the remainder of your home.
Oh, okay. If I can give an example, if I'm right, back me up here. If I'm not, please tell me. But let's say I had 2 routers, okay, and let's use a wireless music system like Sonos that everybody knows.
Yep.
Okay, so I have one router. It's in my bedroom, and I connect a Sonos speaker directly to it. And then, because I had problems downstairs in my family room, I grabbed another router and I connected a Sonos speaker to it. Now, the beauty of the Sonos system is potentially that I can group those rooms together. But if I have 2 routers, isn't that going to block that from happening, or potentially that could happen, right?
That's right, Adam. The problem with using 2 routers is both routers are trying to be the hub of the network and hand out IP addresses to devices that connect to them. And a device that gets an IP address from router number 1 will not be able to communicate with a device getting an IP address from router number 2. That's what we call an IP conflict. And if we've got 2 routers trying to, be the host of your home system, you're not going to be able to intercommunicate between them.
So that's where the confusion comes from, specifically with today's smart home technology and everything. Like we talked about, Ben was talking about the downside of the potential 5G network was that, everything would have to have a SIM card if you wanted to all communicate together. So you can experience the same types of issues if you're running 2 routers in the house. So you might get your coverage, but hey, probably not the best idea to communicate to things, especially if you want to, party and have that big, great network, to do the party and have the music outside and everything flowing. Yeah, not a good idea to do that.
Another good point to that also is that you can think of the more routers you add, it's kind of adding more bosses. You like to have one boss. You don't want to have 2 bosses, maybe 3 or 4. Because then, when your TPS report's not right, you got 4 people trying to tell you what to do.
Yeah, I got the memo. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate that. Definitely got the memo.
I think it might be worth pointing out what that word means, because sometimes people use router just to mean the thing that gives them Wi-Fi.
That's a good.
Because oftentimes, either the ISP box that they provide or consumer grade stuff, it's all the same thing. Your router, your switch, your wireless access point is all one thing. Once you get into slightly more advanced networks, those boxes get separated so you can sort of get best in breed, and they all handle their own job. So sometimes people think router means the access point, the thing that's pointing Wi-Fi at you. The router is the device that's routing the traffic, but the access point may be built into that box, but there's a separate access point.
Great point, Ben.
So just giving everybody a heads up, probably the Facebook feed, people out there, don't worry. If you want to hop over to YouTube, looks like the Facebook feed is having issues, but the YouTube is still going through. So just as a FYI to everybody out there.
So we crashed Facebook. Good job.
We did it. We're that good. Yes, we broke the internet.
I'd like to say hello to Christos if you're still out there, buddy. One of our old employees logged in to
Poliaris.
Yeah, I learned a lot from him.
There you go.
For him, he's a good guy.
Yeah. He taught a lot of guys a lot of stuff about networks. So, yeah, it's good to see his name pop up.
Yeah, one of my first trainers.
Just gonna throw that up there for a second.
There you go.
Alrighty.
Sam had a pretty good question in the comments.
Who did? I'm sorry.
Sam Cochran.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The experience, the line adapter,
power line adapter.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Bad. I've had bad experience with power line adapters.
So so we're talking about the Ethernet over power, correct?
Yeah, EOP.
EOP, and there's PoE, and yeah, you know me. So there's the Ethernet over power, which is an adapter that utilizes. Oh, my daughter's waving at me. I have to wave back. I'm sorry. Hi, Tori. So there is Ethernet over power, which we're taking the signal from a router and we're injecting it so it goes across your power wires, your Romex that's run all through the house. And we have on the other end a receiver that we plug into the outlet nearest where we need the internet, and we try and hardwire it from there. And yeah, haven't had the greatest experience with that. You would
their suggestions used to be, if you have a bad experience, just add more.
Oh. I love the smile from Access Ben on that one. He's probably just like going like this, like, oh my God, like twitching, like, no, don't do that.
They're limited, but there's use cases if it's all in the same phase and all of that. And you can make it work.
You can make it work. That's the key phrase there is you can always make something work.
With enough duct tape.
How much work it takes to make it work.
There's always the balance of performance, budget, and aesthetics, right?
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes, budget is more important than performance, and that's fine.
So go ahead. I really want to get to here talking about what makes the systems, the enterprise grade systems that we sell, definitely different and better, and why that is. And I think a big one that I want to hit on here is, so a typical Wi-Fi router, its pattern, we'll call it, okay, or the form of Wi-Fi that comes out of that router is just kind of it's just like this bubble or an umbrella that kind of comes out of these. And typically one of the solutions, as we talked about yesterday, simple solutions, if you want more Wi-Fi, well, guess what? Just go get closer to that thing and you'll get better Wi-Fi performance. But that's not ideal. People sometimes put routers in basements and things like that because that's where they physically just think that they have to go and they're expecting things to work properly. So we have a nice animation here, and I'd love Access Ben here to kind of go over it as I put it up there I'll have you explain it first, and then we can kind of, I think, show the animation is a little bit better. It's called your beam forming, right? Access
the beam patterns. Yeah, let's take a look and
okay.
We'll see if we can.
So this is a game changer. I want you to pay attention. Watch this. Here we go.
So this is my house. So I guess the idea here is with a standard consumer grade integrated router, it's not doing a whole lot versus having individual access points located in the proper area. But really what we're trying to get is this multiple antenna array. We have a patented technology that we use called BeamFlex. And basically what it does is every other access point or Wi-Fi device in the world is just going to sort of radiate energy equally in all directions, and hopefully it catches one of your client devices, right? Mm-hmm. So you're wasting a lot of RF energy. The FCC only gives us so much RF energy to use in the first place. Does it make sense to shoot it everywhere and hopefully there's a client device here or there? Versus what we do is we actually focus RF energy towards where the client devices are, and we don't use much energy towards where we don't see any client devices. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you a cleaner signal to noise ratio. And if you come from the audio world, that might make a little bit of sense to you. Basically, anybody can, turn the volume up on your stereo and make it really loud, but that doesn't make it sound better, right? What you want is you want to have the cleanest signal possible, because that's what's going to give you your best connection rates. And so that's unique to our technology. I'm getting dizzy there. Part of that is if you have a larger home with multiple access points, one of the biggest challenges, iPhones, for instance, are designed to get stuck to one access point, right? Because most people's homes are, 1,500 square feet or smaller. So that's what it's designed to do. It's not cellular, which is like I'm in my car, I'm driving around and hopping from cellular to cellular to cellular. Where with our BeamFlex technology, what happens is as I get farther from one access point, as I'm walking around the house on a call, because that's what people do, and nearer to another access point, the farther access point actually points RF energy away from me, and the nearer access point points RF energy towards me. So it sort of tricks my phone into stop talking to that access point and start talking to this one. Because otherwise I'll be standing next to the access point in the kitchen, but I started out in the living room and it's still trying to connect to that one with a bad signal, because that's what it was designed to do. The phone decides which access point it's going to connect to. You can't tell it which one to connect to, but we can sort of coax it. It's like parenting. You can't tell your kids what to do, but you can sort of lead by example and coax them around a little bit. So that's what we do. So,
and I'll say one other thing about that video. If anyone watching this has that old Linksys blue wireless router in their account, It is time to do an upgrade.
Call me
It is
now.
100% time to do an upgrade.
I guarantee you've been infiltrated if you have that route.
Here, call us, please. Please call us if you have the little blue Linksys piece.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a great video, and it's interesting because again, it's forming and it's finding you. You know, I kind of explain to customers, it's seeking you out. It's finding where to put Wi-Fi and not putting it in places where it's not necessary. And that's part of one of the services that we have. I spoke to earlier. I told you I was going to get to it, so here it comes. When we do the network surveys in people's homes, we're bringing one of these networks out to your house. And one of the first questions that we ask is, okay, where are your key areas? What's important? There's your dining room. Do you really need to have Wi-Fi in that dining room all the time? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe it's where the kids do homework, maybe it's not. So knowing those things and knowing where you specifically need Wi-Fi, and then when we go around the house and we're testing these areas, we can strategically place these access points to make sure that you get the Wi-Fi where you need it. Maybe you want to cover the whole house, and that's great. You know, we can certainly do that, not a problem. But, you know, do you really need it in the loft or in the storage room or where have you? There's a great question that's coming up here about where to place my outdoor one. Let me grab that real quick. I think I saw that a few questions back. Where was it? There's something about where to aim my...
Yeah, it was from Ryan. There he is.
What direction should I point my outdoor access point to get the best coverage? And that's something that another thing I think we learned you know, maybe a few years back, but it speaks to what Access Ben was just talking about in terms of, you know, you want to find that point where they're crossing each other over and not one's not too heavy on top of another. So a lot of times we like to put those outdoor access points away from the house and fire them back at the house, because you don't want just, you know, again, to Access Ben's, just turning it up isn't a great thing, you know, so we want to have that firing back at the house to get much better coverage and more reliability, right, guys? I mean, that's
and the real point of the question is, where do you need the coverage?
Yeah,
that's the best spot.
Yeah.
So if you have a barn out back that you're going to be working on your car in, you know, that's a good spot for your outdoor access point. You know, if you have a nice gazebo or anything else along those lines that you want to, that you're going to sit and enjoy the day. You know, a lot of times when I've walked outdoors, it's been like, okay, where are you going to be? Yeah. Oh, we're planning on putting a pool over there. Well, if you're planning on putting a pool over there, let's pull a wire that way. You know, if you're planning on having a swing set and things that you're not going to require Wi-Fi at, you know, that's not as important. But around pools, you know, nice outdoor seated areas. We set up a nice access point outside right by a basketball court because, you know, they set up speakers out there. They want to control the speakers. They're going to need the Wi-Fi to control them because it's all going back into the house.
The access points can also have better performance based off their orientation. You know, an access point such as this one is intended to be mounted to the ceiling because its antenna array is kind of shaped outward. It could be oriented differently, but the outdoor access points to that question, it could also, depending on the model, have an antenna array that could be affected by orientation. And sometimes, you know, depending on your mounting position, that could depend on whether or not the antennas are going to beam flex and get out to where you want them to be properly.
I like the verb form. That's great.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, most of the challenges you're going to get is what we call the physical layer. Basically, how did you mount it? Yep. Because there is a specific pattern that you know, even with beam flex, that's going to focus the RF energy, you know, more towards one area. But if you mount your access point backwards, it's not going to help you out at all, right? So the thing to keep in mind is that most access points, it's going to radiate out of the dome like a donut pattern. So there are advanced reasons why you would, you know, mount something, you know, sort of unorthodox, but generally, yeah, indoor access points you want to mount in the ceiling like a smoke detector. And
Adam, you can attest to this. You know, our kit, we have, you know, the booms with the
like
mount for the access points, so we can lift it up to the ceiling height and orient, and it actually spins on its axis. And I could have it sit so that it's pointing down, or it's pointing up, or it's pointing left, or pointing right. I think I went as high as 20 feet with one of them to test to see how well it would work in an outdoor scenario hanging off the house. You know, we try to put them into the positions when we're doing these tests that they're supposed to be. Not just like, okay, we're going to put this on the ground over here, and that's going to show us Wi-Fi for right now. Like we walk around with a battery pack that powers up the access point and go, okay, this is the best spot for this piece in your house right here, right now.
Right. And believe me when I tell you that the same 2,500 square foot houses built by the same builder will have different positioning and possibly different amount of wireless access points. And that's the importance of doing the network survey, is to get that kind of accuracy before we actually come out and do the installation. So really important. All right. So now I heard earlier that, well, I heard Brian has a 700. I heard Worldwide Ben has a 500. I'm sure this guy's got like a 28 gigawatt thing at his house.
Makes me feel like I should put a record. I've been thinking about upgrading to Wi-Fi 6, even though I have no Wi-Fi 6 client devices.
Well, you will in the future.
I have a 610 and a 500. The 500 is for the garage. The 610 is for the rest of the house.
So
we're changing it up. We're switching it up to Yingling. Get some good old-fashioned Pennsylvania native brew.
Okay, some lager.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do right now too is cheers. I have this here, and this is kind of right now the access points that are available. And if Access Ben could kind of please go through what they have and what their differentiators are kind of between them.
Sure, I'm going to have to remember this stuff, otherwise I'm going to get in trouble. So yeah, the common ones we use. We have lots of others that we can pull out for corner cases that are designed for different applications. I think Ben talked about sectorized versus Omni and all that. But the A320 is where our lineup starts. Believe it or not, even at our entry level, that should still outperform pretty much anybody else's best access point in most cases because of that technology we talked about the higher signal to noise ratio with the Flex. But it's 802.11ac Wave 2, which now we're all going to have to start calling Wi-Fi 5 because they're retconning how we describe this. It's a 2x2 access point, and it can do 256 concurrent users. So that's a little bit more than the 20 or 30 we talked about.
30, I think is what you said. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and I was being generous. The 510, and I should also mention that that access point has 64 antenna patterns per band. So what that means is we talked about the directionality. It has 64 points on the compass that it can pinpoint RF energy. So that's 63 more than any other access point from another vendor is going to have. That's just going to sort of go in all directions. And that's good because if I'm wrong here, correct me, but like a device like this where the antennas are on the side, if I'm holding it like this versus holding it like that, that's kind of what you're talking about, like the actual so
patterns, right?
Flex Plus, that's the model. That's the only model that doesn't have it. So thanks for pointing that out.
All right, no problem. Sorry.
Limitations are good to know.
Just
yeah, the nomenclature is confusing, but basically, BeamFlex is that where we're forming that antenna, we're pointing the RF towards where you are.
Oh, right. Okay.
BeamFlex Plus is easy to remember because it's an XY axis, right? So great segue. Once you get up to the 510 and above, they have BeamFlex Plus as well, which is exactly what you say. If Wi-Fi was designed for basically like laptops where the orientation of your antenna doesn't change, but if I go horizontally versus vertically, I could go 100% out of phase with the antenna above me just by changing the orientation. So again, patented technology where as I change the orientation of my device, it's going to dynamically change which antenna axis it's going to use. You add that performance benefit to the BeamFlex with the directional RF energy. This is really where you're getting those much better connection rates and staying connected. The other thing the 510 does is it doubles the number of connected concurrent users. So that goes up to 512 concurrent users as well. And then the 610 has 512 concurrent users as well. It adds another antenna. So it has it's a 3x3 access point. And it's going to have, I want to say 512 antenna patterns, so more points on the compass. Where is that useful? That's useful the more challenging the construction materials are of the home, right? So I had a 500 in my office, and my Nest doorbell camera was dropping offline like 20 seconds a week. I swapped it with a 610, and the 610 with those additional antenna patterns does a better job of getting through my exterior wall getting through those studs out there. And now that doorbell has not fallen offline in the year and a half since I swapped out that access point. And then getting up to the 750, this access point is freaking amazing. This is our flagship. This is a Wi-Fi 6 access point. It's got like over 4,000 antenna patterns, over 4,000 concurrent users, which is probably more than your network can even support. But what's really cool about this is that it's the latest and greatest technology. It's Wi-Fi 6. And then the B310 is the most common outdoor access point that we use in most applications, but we got lots of other ones that we can use as well.
Yo, Ben, let me get one of those 750s.
So you're saying I should upgrade my 700 to a 750?
Very awesome access point. But if you were going to upgrade, that's where you'd upgrade to.
Absolutely.
I just love it because you guys, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Adam.
I was going to say, I just love it because you guys are like making me get excited. Like when I get excited about like an amplifier or speakers or something like that. And then you guys are just like, you're making me get excited about it. I'm not usually into this kind of stuff on that level like you guys are. So I'm like, man, I need a 750.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just want to say shout out to Christos again. A great comment. Just like Ben was mentioning, concurrent connections to each AP. That's a big deal, and that makes a big difference in how well your network can perform when you have a lot of users. You know, my son alone, I got a 10-year-old kid, and he's got an iPad and a computer and a phone, and you know that's 3 users on just one person in the house. And a Nintendo Switch. So let's call it 4. You know, so you got multiple people in your house with multiple Wi-Fi devices. Those are all concurrent users that need a good connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, there you go, Brian.
I have 3 on me right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, and Steve brings up a good question for the basic home. Should we look at A320 or A510 or higher? And I think the real answer is kind of what we've been pointing towards. It really comes to what you want to do and what your house is like. I would say entry level, I would 100% like any household that I would want to go into, I want to throw in an A320 because the benefit that you get from that is going to be far superior than anything else that you pick off from the ISPs that an ISP will provide, or any kind of big box store will say, hey, this will give you the best. Look how many cool antennas hang off of it. Just the technology built into it really is the most important part. And that's, I think, really the key is the technology. It's not as much, you know, the branding or anything else along those lines. It's making sure that what you get handles what you need.
Right. That's for sure. And that's part of, you know, what we can do as part of that survey that I talked about is we can show you what that difference is going to be. And then when we quote it out for you, we can determine, you know, where you want to land, but we'll be able to do that.
And let's not forget what Access helps us out with too. You know, we do physical surveys for locations that exist. Access has helped us out with locations that don't exist yet. You know, we have plans, and we've used them as a service to say, hey, someone's building a house. Here's 4 floors. Here's how it lays out. Here's what's the proposed building materials. How can you help us? Yeah, we've done lots of that with them and support. And one thing I want to bring up, let's talk about that. We have a pretty interesting case study, I guess we'll call it, currently of what we're doing for somebody. Given our remote capability right now and what we've done, we have somebody who is, you know, working on the front line of all of our current situation, being a virologist, and we are helping them to make sure that they have great connectivity. Are you working on that project, Ben or Brian? Or so they actually contacted us after the live event yesterday about a network that we did for them in 2012, and we did a very robust network for them in 2012. But as it was 2012 and it's 2020, and as Ben mentioned earlier, mean time till failure. You know how long that devices will last. You know, they might be running some sluggishness with their network, and it kind of geared them to say, hey, is there a new opportunity for me? You know, working at home right now is very important. If you're a virologist working on a vaccine for what we're dealing with right now, I'd say I want to make sure you have the best network available to you.
Yeah.
So I'm working with one of our sales guys to kind of solidify some new opportunities for them.
Yeah, that's definitely important today, given the current state of affairs. It's very important for them to have a phenomenal connection, and so that's definitely important there. And we lost Brian. Where'd he go? Brian, come back.
Let me get Brian back to talk about the virology.
There he is.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
I had to switch spots.
Okay, fair enough. Well, another thing that comes on that same subject in the state of affairs is a lot of kids, specifically mine. I got a 5th grader, 10 years old, that is doing all of his schooling from home now.
Yeah.
And so when he's not running around the house like a nut or playing video games, we have to sit him down to do some virtual learning, and having a robust connection to support him and my wife working from home and myself doing live video stream. It's important, and all those concurrent devices that are always connected, even the devices that I'm not thinking about, like the Amazon Alexa in the kitchen that's always connected. That's another concurrent device that needs an uplink to the internet. And with the Internet of Things and all the smart home devices that we've got, running around, I try to run a hardwired connection to everything that I possibly can, but not everything has an Ethernet jack to plug in, which is why having robust Wi-Fi access points and a good uplink to the internet is important.
And that's a good point that Ben brings up. A lot of what we've been dealing with. I've been working in remotely assisting our customer base, dealing with their wireless systems and their networks and the issues that they're having it with right now, and trying to help people really for their kids to have school. So we had a customer reach out to us who, again, had a network from like 2012, and it was a very good network for the time, but they said it's just not working for them. And they were all huddled up down in the basement trying to do schoolwork where they used to be before. They could just be everywhere. But and we pre-built the network in-house. We set up a whole bunch of access points, a whole bunch of switches. We created a guideline for the homeowner to be able to plug in themselves, do an installation themselves, and had it couriered to them with a contactless delivery. It was dropped off at their front door. And the next day, we spent time with them and over the phone and helped them plug all the little pieces in where they need to go. Even though we label everything of what needs to go where and how it gets plugged in, there's still always going to be some kind of thought of like, oh, am I putting in the right spot? So we schedule time for that person to walk through with them. I FaceTime with people. Ben has FaceTime with people. Trying to help people out as much as we can with the resources that we have. And that's been a handful of cases that we've done so far.
Absolutely. We're here for you virtually, and we're hoping to get back real soon. But until then, you can always reach out to us because we can do a lot of remote stuff for you. So yeah, real cool stuff that we're working on. Access, Ben, anything you want to add here before we head out? We're certainly glad that you came and happy to join us here. Is there any tips of advice or kind words?
Yeah, no, I just, first of all, this has been a lot of fun. So thanks so much for inviting me. I really appreciate being here. And what Ben and Brian were just talking about, which is, talking about networks that are 8 years old. I bet you don't have a phone from 2012, right? So, you should sort of think of, if I'm upgrading my phone every, few years, that phone has technology that's relying on that infrastructure. So you might want to think about it for upgrading the infrastructure as well.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that, right?
I can't find my flip phone, so no, I don't have one from 2012.
So, all right, I got the new flip phone. All right. So one more time, I just want to remind everybody here about our network page here. Again, you want to click on our worldwidestereo.com, and then go to our services, come down here to Home Networks, and we talk about everything that we talked about tonight, what we can do for you. You have your link here to call or contact us so we can work with you remotely. We can do, remote or virtual site visits for you. There's things that we can check out remotely for you without coming into the home right now and set up for you so that your Internet of Things, as we call it, are all connected and working well as we hope that they should be right now, given that they're under this massive stress test right now. Now is the time to plan for this because technology only keeps increasing. So call us, we can come out or work with you virtually, and get you set up with a killer network. And we lost Ben again, or Brian. Brian, we keep losing Brian.
And it's one of the things, it's not my network, it's all user error.
Okay.
There's a button on our screen that's right next to the private chat that I keep clicking accidentally.
Oh, well.
Makes me feel real smart.
That's all right. You'll get it one of these days. It's okay.
Well,
it's all right.
It's my first day.
It's your second. You were here yesterday.
Ben, what do you say when you're at a job site and you make a mistake?
Throw Brian under the bus.
No, it's my first day.
It's my first day. It's my first day.
It's my first day.
All right.
There you go.
So, everybody, thank you for joining us again. If you have any further follow-up questions, you can always reach out to us here. I'll throw up our phone number, 866 number there, and also, or you can email us at hello@wwstereo.com. Any questions that you have for follow-up, email us. We're happy to help you, call you, Skype call you, whatever, virtually help you out. We can do all those things. Thank you so much for everybody for joining us. Have a great evening. And as I always say, I know this is a Wi-Fi event, but please listen to music every day. So long.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys.